From the founder, chairman, majority owner, and CEO of Monumental Sports and Entertainment, he knows a thing or two about the tech industry. That would be Mr. Ted Leonsis.
Thank you for coming. It's so great to welcome so many friends and partners here to Capital One Arena. Hopefully you'll stick around and go to the Caps game this evening. And I wanted to kick this off by talking a little bit about the power of the NBA and the NBA platform and how it's tied to really what I see as the ascension of indoor sports. Indoor sports are going to be the most valuable franchises on the sports and entertainment landscape, mostly because we can offer within our buildings high fidelity for wireless connectivity. We can have high-speed cameras tracking everything, the ability to just control through video and present games in a non-stop way is going to be really, really important. And so the NBA is really the fastest growing and we think the most important emerging brand on a global basis. And the platform that's being developed consists of men's basketball. That's the NBA as we know it. You'll soon see a much more strategic emphasis on developmental league, now called the G League. And we can see how the G League, we just announced our team on Friday, the Capital City Go-Go, will become very strategic to the platform and to each of the teams from a development standpoint, but also for a way to reach a larger audience and that we can do more programming, more monitoring, more generating of the data. We have a women's basketball league, WNBA. We own and operate the Washington Mystics. We have the Summer League, and now we're launching an esports extension. And why esports is so important is that there are 7 billion people on the planet. About closing in on 5 billion of the 7 billion have some kind of connectivity, mostly through their mobile phone or device. There's only 350 million connections in the US. So we have become nationally a small part of the overall global footprint for the internet. And when you look at where the big companies have created all of the value, be it Apple, be it Alibaba, be it Tencent, be it Amazon, be it Alphabet, Google, all of their growth is coming from outside of the US. So turning all of our businesses and brands outward instead of inward, no walls up, going out to the largest audience that we can, younger, more diverse women is what the NBA is all about. And esports allows us to tap into truly the fastest growing, most important segment of the entertainment business. I go way back in the field. I was with America Online. We got America Online. AOL was started in 1988. In 1987, before it was called America Online, it was called Quantum Computer Corporation. And it was founded as an Atari multi-user game network. We basically connected people from around the country who wanted to find multi-user game way of connecting and playing and building their own communities. And when AOL first launched, most of our traffic was at night, and the majority of our traffic at night was men playing video games, and in the day, it was women playing casual card games and horoscope games and ways to just connect. And so the communities that get built, the truly authentic relationships that get built in multi-user gaming is really, really important to our economy and to this next generation who we have to reach. I'll also say what's amazing about esports is that once you get introduced and hooked to a game, you do it for life. And I think it was about 15 years ago when the video game business surpassed Hollywood in terms of revenues, because $100 million will get spent to make a movie, and you film 100 hours and they edit it down to 90 minutes, and you go to the movie theater. I used to go to the movie theater one time and pay $10 to watch the movie. A video game, a great video game, can also take about $100 million to make, but it's infinite in its delivery. And now, because you're no longer delivering physically, because it's released online and updated in a real-time way, there is infinite time, infinite stories, infinite character development, infinite worlds for you to get involved with. And because of that new model, as bandwidth has become more and more available, and because this industry, more than any other, follows Moore's law, faster, better, cheaper, essentially till it's free, the best games are offered for free. It would be like us saying, come to the Caps game tonight. The game is free. Oh, you want to watch from this angle with clean glass? That's $10. You want a beer? That's $25. You want to be able to watch the scoreboard? That's $5. You want to watch the... And that's what this whole industry has become. Great adoption and usage with very innovative upsell. And once someone falls in love with the brand, falls in love with the environment, falls in love with the game, makes the commitment to understand how to play that game, they get hooked for life. And it's analogous to who watches golf on television. It's people who play golf. Very few casual people. I've never played a round of golf in my life or watching golf on TV. Well, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people around the world are playing video games. And once you start playing video games, you want to share and compete, and you get into multi-user games, and you start to really relate to how difficult it is to master these environments. And the young people that become great and most adept at learning at how to play esports are truly great athletes. That's something that is going to surprise people. I remember there was this big argument 15 years ago where NASCAR race car drivers athletes. What do? They're in the car and they're steering. And of course they're great athletes. Hand-eye coordination, stamina, the ability to judge space and time, the risk-taking that's involved, how physically in shape you have to be, how the team has to come together to bring the cars in shape. You know, you see now how fast it is to get a car in and out. There's no more discussion about whether NASCAR people in the pit and NASCAR drivers are athletes, and it became a relatively big and important industry. You could argue that esports, someone asked, do you think esports is going to take its place amongst the major sport leagues? And I think that's missing the point. I think very quickly, esports will be the largest participatory sport business industry with the most active participants, the most dollars compared to any sport. It will dwarf the NFL, it'll dwarf the NBA, because first and foremost, it is a global phenomenon. China, Korea, all of the Asian nations, they are early adopters there first. I joked with someone the other day, my son Zach, who will speak later, was a good student and he was a good athlete and he was always playing video games with his friends. And one Saturday I came downstairs and he and his friends had been up all night saving the universe and saving the planet by killing aliens. And I said, "What are you doing? Shut that off. Go upstairs, go hit some golf balls, shoot some baskets, do your homework, stop playing video games." In Korea, you'll see a kid playing tennis, and his mother comes outside and says, "What are you doing? You'll never be a pro tennis player. Go downstairs, do your homework, play esports. You got a shot at making a lot of money and having a great career being in the esports business." And just like soccer, which is we have kind of a football poor man's derivative here, we still haven't taken off where it's endemic in Europe and other parts of the world. That's what we are in fear of happens here, that we don't have yet the great players. And so I'm very, very proud of the NBA for embracing esports. We put our hand up here in Washington to say we want to be one of the first in. We made an investment separately outside of what you're going to see off of the NBA platform. Peter Guber, who is one of the owners of the Dodgers and the Golden State Warriors, and we led the acquisition of a company that owns Team Liquid. And Team Liquid is one of the endemic esports teams. We treat them with great respect because these are young people that are helping to birth an industry. You'll hear later today from some people who have been there from the beginning to help develop and build a whole new industry. Now, we can add some value because we've been exposed to so many sports leagues and what happens with the players and the coaching and what's needed to make the industry successful. But I've said we need to have a light touch and not get in the way because this industry is taken off. And as I look around the room, we're mostly baby boomers and millennials. I don't see a lot of Gen Xers here. I'm old. I remember watching the Beatles the first time on television on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I use that analogy because it was like two worlds were happening. My mom and dad were watching black and white television and the Lawrence Welk Show. Broadway songs, accordions, and then the Beatles showed up. And this whole new industry and world started. I was there at the birth of the PC movement. I helped to introduce the IBM PC. I then worked with Steve Jobs and the people at Apple on introducing the Macintosh. I was one of the first people in the world to get online. We got America online. Every one of those changes was huge. I would say going from World War II to the 60s, free love, rock and roll, big societal change. Giving everyone a personal computer and enabling everybody to have democracy in the palm of their hands, another huge movement. Getting people online and leveling the playing field for everyone. When I got online, there were less than 1 million people online. Today, as I said, there's close to 4 billion. It's become oxygen. We all had to get used to it. It is the utility that we live our life on. And that happened really, really fast. You are going to see the same kind of phenomenon on esports. We are going to wake up in a cycle much faster, and esports will be the predominant sport, and you will see derivatives and applications of esports and competition and tournaments by verticals and by leagues. So that the NBA has embraced this, that the NBA is trying to do this in the right way. We'll start in a conservative fashion. We'll activate our fan bases. We want to do the right thing in the right way. And after we get that right, then we'll be able to do endemic kinds of things. And you'll hear that positioning a lot on, is this endemic and authentic versus is it a part of the platform and just being an extension on the platform? Most of the times when a new media or something brand new and global emerges, it's not the people in the previous wave that make that transition. So we have that challenge that I think we're up to, but as an example, Rolling Stone magazine, which basically is being given away, it didn't create MTV. Sports Illustrated didn't launch and create ESPN. It didn't make that leap from one media, one mode of business to the next. Most of the time, it's the new brands, it's the attacking younger entrepreneurs that make for a new industry. We kind of did that at AOL for a decade. We were the #1 performing stock on the New York Stock Exchange for a decade by essentially saying everything that was analog in media will become digital, and you will be able to do things faster, better, cheaper online. And so the NBA right now, this is an extension to the platform, using our brands, our players, our platforms, our teams to get into this market. But I think it's just our first step. As sponsors, as advertisers, as media partners, as employees, this is a very, very important area for you to get up to speed and knowledgeable about. And the confluence of the big new things that will happen to create new revenues and growth, like gaming and fantasy and gambling. Today, the Supreme Court, it was a technical term, they leaned in to saying that you will be able to do sports betting legally as a consumer in the light of day. Well, you can imagine what will happen if you can start to game and gamble in a transparent, accountable way in esports, where there's infinite things that can happen, and you're already on a digital, accountable platform. We know that big data is the next big thing that is happening to fuel all of our businesses. And every sport, be it basketball, hockey, football, there are so many things happening that you're measuring and metricing, and you're seeing people being able to bet on not who's going to win the game, but what's going to happen on the next play. What is each person on the field going to do on that next play? And that you can game and gamble and settle up in real time. Well, watch a esports tournament, watch a professional esports player who is processing and doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hand-eye coordination tasks in a 60-second, in a minute. Compare that to like football. Watched some games yesterday. 3-hour game, 10 minutes of play. 3 seconds on the play, 30 seconds to pick everybody up, go back into the huddle. Just watch esports and see the amount of things that are going on, the amount of characters, the amount of action, and imagine all of the data that's being generated, what can be reported, how people can be trained, what you'll be able to game and eventually gamble on. So data, legalized gaming and gambling, esports will probably create the biggest new opportunity in sports and entertainment in our lifetime. And it's thrilling to do this kickoff event for all of you. And I want to now bring this back to Dan so we can kick off. And I hope you find this productive. And this will just be the start of a long journey together. Thank you very much.